Mission Log 1. Dr. Heather Norman. August 2nd, Station Ithaca, 40,234 feet below the surface. Hello again, this is Dr. Norman. I'm currently stationed at Ithaca, an aging submersible research facility that squats on the edge of the Maw Trench like it's peering over the ledge but afraid to fall in. The official depth today, 40,234 feet. That's over 7.5 miles below the surface. Nothing natural belongs this deep, and that includes us. Ithaca isn't new. The station was built sometime in the 1950s, back when the government was more concerned with what the Soviets were doing beneath the ocean than what the ocean was doing itself. Cold War ghosts. They tell us the place was decommissioned after a classified sonar incident in the 80s, but no one really knows what happened. And the higher-ups sure don't talk about it. The metal in this place feels like it remembers things. The floors creak underfoot, hollow steel grates with cold water vapor hissing up from the seams. Sometimes I swear the walls breathe. Not like expansion from pressure, breathe. Slow and heavy, like something massive asleep just behind the bulkheads. The overhead lights are old fluorescents that flicker once every few minutes. They're harsh and cold, but better than the alternative, absolute darkness. Out past the viewing dome, there's nothing. No light, no current, just black, and the trench. We're parked just a few meters from the edge of it. The Maw. It's not on public maps, that's what caught everyone's attention. According to satellite bathymetry, this section of seabed should be flat. Instead, there's a drop, sheer, clean, unnatural. The sonar says it goes down, but never hits bottom. Signals vanish like they're being swallowed. Hence the name. The Maw. The crew's small, 6 of us total, each chosen for a specialty. Or maybe something else. Dr. Charles Monroe is our senior lead, oceanographer, mid-60s, with pale blue eyes that never quite look at you. He walks with his hands clasped behind his back, always murmuring to himself like he's doing equations. The others call him Monk, behind his back. I haven't decided if it's affectionate or not. Samira Ortega is ex-Navy. She runs comms and security. Short black hair, jaw clenched more often than not. She's sharp, suspicious of everyone, and carries herself like she expects something to go wrong. Then there's Haruto Lei, our systems and life support engineer. He doesn't talk much, always sketching in a pocket notebook. The way he stares at the equipment, almost reverent, like he's afraid to touch anything too hard in case it shatters. Rafi Ashir is the youngest, marine biologist full of caffeine and restless energy. He keeps making jokes to fill the silence, which honestly helps. He named the station's maintenance bot Toby and talks to it more than the rest of us. And me, Dr. Heather Norman, deep-sea microbial ecologist. I'm here to study extremophiles and pressure-resistant growths on the trench wall. Not exactly glamorous, but I've always been more comfortable studying organisms that shouldn't be alive. First impressions? This place is barely holding itself together. You can feel it in your bones, the way the air presses down on you, like the ocean's trying to remind you who's in charge. Every time the door seals lock behind me, I get this split-second flash in my head of what it would feel like if the hull gave way. Not a bang, not a crack, just collapse, like blinking. We ran a systems check this morning. Most of the hardware is functional, though heavily patched. Haruto kept frowning at the oxygen regulators but didn't say much about it. Monroe's already combing through sonar logs. Says he's looking for patterns, though I've seen the files. Just bursts of static and occasional blips that don't match any marine life we've cataloged. The red light on the forward hydrophone blinks every 30 seconds. Nothing comes through. Not yet. I spent a few minutes in the observation dome before lights out. It's the only place in the station that feels honest. You sit in there and all you can see is the abyss. No walls, no controls, no tasks. Just you, the glass, and the dark pressing in on all sides. Sometimes if you stare too long, it feels like something out there might blink back. This log's already longer than intended. I'm keeping my entries nightly, mostly for personal records. No anomalies to report. No signs of equipment stress. Everyone's still acting normal. Still, the silence down here isn't nothing. It's waiting. Mission Log 2. Dr. Heather Norman, August 3rd, Station Ithaca, 40,034 feet below the surface. I woke up this morning with a nosebleed. Not a bad one, just enough to sting. I thought maybe it was the dry air or the recycled pressure, but I noticed Rafi wiping a tissue across his lip in the mess hall an hour later. He gave me a half smile and said, "Altitude sickness in reverse." Then he tossed the tissue and changed the subject. "Still, it's not nothing. I ran a full atmospheric test in Module B after breakfast. Everything came back within spec. Oxygen saturation, carbon dioxide levels, trace methane, nothing out of line. Haruto double-checked the compressors, no issues. He said maybe our bodies are still adjusting to being this deep again after a shallow transfer. But here's the thing, I've done deep station work before. You don't get nosebleeds after acclimation, not unless something's wrong." Monroe hasn't said much since we arrived. He keeps to the bridge console, reviewing old acoustic logs, replaying snippets of sonar like he's trying to decode a forgotten language. This morning, I walked past his station and caught a glimpse of the waveform display. There was a segment of static overlaid with what looked like pulses, soft, rhythmic. Not quite organic, not quite mechanical, like Morse code with no key. I asked him about it. He just minimized the screen and said it was probably thermal distortion in the trench wall. He said probably, but didn't sound convinced. We had a false proximity alert around 1400 hours. The hydrophones picked up something. A brief, low-frequency thrum just beyond the maw. Samir and I were both in Module C when the warning light blinked on. It didn't last more than 5 seconds, but the system registered it at subharmonic resonance levels. That shouldn't be possible. That low, it should be geological, like a tectonic shift. But there was no quake, no aftershock, just a noise, and then nothing. I asked Haruto if the audio file was saved. He said the system failed to record it. He said it too fast. Rafi's starting to get under Monroe's skin. I think the silence is getting to him. Today he mounted a GoPro onto Toby, the maintenance bot, and sent it to patrol the edge of the viewing dome like it was some kind of pet drone. When Monroe told him to focus on coral sample retrieval, Rafi said, "Sorry, I thought we were down here to find out what's new, not scrape sludge off century-old scaffolding." Monroe didn't answer, just stared at the kid for a beat too long. Later I passed by the lab and heard Monroe muttering to himself again. It wasn't numbers this time. Just one word. Closer. After the systems check, I sat in the dome again. The lights outside are set to low power mode overnight, just 2 dull arcs of yellow illuminating a few feet past the glass. But tonight, the trench looked different. I don't mean visibly. Nothing changed. It's still black, still endless, but it felt different, like we're not watching it anymore, like it's watching us. Samira's been checking the internal cams twice a day, even though no one's asked her to. She says it's protocol. But I caught her rewinding footage from the crew quarters last night, staring at the screen like she was waiting for something to move. When I asked her about it, she said she thought she saw Monroe walking the halls around 300. Alone. No logs recorded him exiting the bridge module. No one saw him pass through the doors. But the security footage, according to her, glitched out for 3 seconds around that same time. Could be compression, I said. She didn't respond, just kept watching. One last thing before I close this out. I had a dream last night. I was floating outside the station. No suit, no tether. Just drifting in the deep, down past the maw's edge. Everything was dark, but not empty. I could feel something out there, huge and quiet, curling around me like it was trying to understand me. I wasn't scared. I was warm. When I woke up, I was sitting up in bed, my hands covered in salt water. No broken pipes, no leaks, nothing in the airlock. I didn't tell the others. Some things you hold on to. Mission Log 3, Dr. Heather Norman, August 4th, Station Ithaca. 40,234 feet below the surface. I'm logging this late, 0200 hours. I tried to sleep, but I kept hearing not sounds exactly, just presence, like a change in the pressure of the air. Not enough to trigger an alarm, just enough to make my skin crawl. We've been down here 3 days, that's all. 3 days, but it feels like longer. Time has a way of bending down here, not like relativity, something more intimate. Monroe says it's just the isolation. The body loses its anchor when it can't see the sun. But I think he's just reciting something he read in a paper once. Because he's been acting different too. The hydrophones picked up another ping this morning. This one was sharper. Not like the first, the low, deep thrumming. This one was high, modulated, like something struck metal deep in the trench and let it ring out. We triangulated the source, inside the maw. Only problem? The trench wall is solid basalt for at least 900 meters straight down. There's nothing in there to bounce a signal, unless it came through. Rafi's been keeping busy with the drone cams. He insists on manually piloting Toby instead of letting it run pre-programmed sweeps, says it gives him something to focus on. But when I asked what he'd seen, he just blinked at me. Nothing yet, he said, then paused. Wait. No, didn't I show you the feed yesterday? He didn't, but he swore up and down that he had. Samira pulled the logs. No recordings from Toby since our arrival. Rafi didn't argue. He just stared at his hands for a while. Then said quietly, I could have sworn. At 1600 hours, Haruto collapsed. We were in the mess hall when it happened. 1 minute he was walking toward the hydration unit, and the next his legs buckled like someone cut his strings. No warning, no cry, just down, flat on the metal. He was out for nearly 90 seconds. No convulsions, no medical cause. Monroe checked him with a scanner. Heartbeat, blood pressure, brainwave patterns. All normal. When Haruto came to, he didn't remember collapsing. Didn't even seem confused. All he said was, I was dreaming. Something was humming. And then he asked if dinner was ready. Samira is keeping herself busy. That's her way of dealing. But even she's showing cracks. I caught her standing at the observation dome tonight, back straight, hands clasped behind her back, just like Monroe does. She didn't hear me come in. When I said her name, she flinched. Then she said, do you ever feel like something's listening? Like, not with ears, with intention. I asked if she meant sonar reflections, but she shook her head. No, I mean us. All of us. Like the maw's not just a trench, like it's a mouth. She left before I could answer. Monroe spent most of the day in the storage wing. He's taken to locking himself in there for hours at a time. Said he was reviewing old instrumentation logs. But Samira and I checked. He's not accessing anything. There's no data request traffic at all during those periods. I confronted him in the corridor after dinner, asked what he was really doing in there. He smiled, small, strained, and said, sometimes silence is data too, Dr. Norman. Then he turned and walked away. One last thing. We found a scratch on the inside of the viewing dome. A single groove, maybe 5 inches long, shallow, but deliberate. Not a crack. A scratch. Like something sharp was dragged across the inner surface. Samira says it's just wear and tear from pressure cycles. But I checked the station's service logs. That dome is rated for 2 centuries without cosmetic degradation, and it passed inspection 4 months ago before launch. There's no way it should have been damaged, unless something inside the dome scratched it. Which, of course, is impossible. Rafi didn't eat tonight. He said he wasn't hungry, then went to his bunk early. I passed his room an hour ago. He was sitting on his floor, lights off, whispering into Toby's hull. I didn't interrupt. I'm starting to understand the urge. Mission Log 5, Dr. Heather Norman August. No confirmed date. Station Ithaca, 40,234 feet beneath the surface. I think today is August 10th. Or maybe the 9th. It's hard to say anymore. We lost track of the master clock at some point. 5 days ago, I think? Could have been 3. Could have been longer. There's still power in the main systems, but the time servers glitched during a station-wide reset. Every terminal now displays a different date. My watch says August 10th. Monroe's insists it's the 13th. Samira's says nothing at all. Just time never started at all. I would have fixed it days ago, but I didn't notice until today. Which is strange. Because I've been logging every day, haven't I? We're preparing the submersible. The Persephone. She's an older model, deep pressure certified for descent below 45,000 feet. Monroe wants to launch within the next 36 hours. Before the next cycle, he said. When I asked what cycle he meant, he just stared at me. We've rigged extra sonar, backup lighting arrays, and deep-range signal boosters. But no matter how we reinforce it, I don't think Persephone is ready for what waits down there. We're not either. But Monroe insists we go. We've been invited, he said. It would be rude not to answer. Haruto's sketches are getting worse. He's drawing in his sleep now. We found a page on the galley table this morning, smeared with graphite. Dozens of tiny, spiraling figures covering the paper from edge to edge, each one drawn with obsessive care. No breaks, no margin space, just ink, pressure, shape. They look like vertebrae, but wrong. Segmentations that don't line up with any species we know. Too many ribs, some with faces, some with none. Samira asked him about it. He didn't remember making them. But later I saw him tracing one of the spines with his fingertip, murmuring to it, like it was whispering back. Rafi is silent now. He walks through the station like he's following a map only he can see. Still eats. Still responds when you call him, but with this glazed, neutral tone like he's elsewhere. When I asked if he was okay, he said, "We're not meant to be this close to it. It doesn't like to be looked at." I asked what he meant by it. He said nothing. Just turned and walked down the hall, straight into Module D. The lights are still out in there. I had a dream last night. At least, I think it was a dream. I was outside the station, on the seafloor. No suit, no helmet, just me, standing in the dark, and I could breathe. The water was thick, syrupy, but it moved in and out of my lungs like air. In the distance, down the trench, something glowed. Not brightly, but warm. Like bioluminescence, like something was waking up. I took a step toward it and the mud swallowed my foot. Then the whispering started. Not voices. Frequencies. Carving their way into my head. Shapes made of sound, repeating over and over in a rhythm I couldn't escape. No words, just a feeling, come closer. When I woke up, I had nosebleed. I wasn't the only one. Samira doesn't trust Monroe anymore. She's convinced he's hiding something from us, maybe from himself. His logs don't match the station's timeline. He talks to the mall like it's a colleague. Says things like, "It's not communicating in ways we understand yet." And the dream state is a bridge. It speaks to us through memory. When we challenged him on this, he snapped. First time I've seen him angry. You're anthropomorphizing a presence older than life. It doesn't speak, it remembers. Then he walked out. We found him 2 hours later, sitting at the edge of the docking bay, staring into the launch tube. Muttering again, "We're going into the maw tomorrow." I don't remember agreeing to it, but the log says I signed the launch order. And I must have. It's in my handwriting, even if I don't remember writing it. Samira asked me tonight, quietly, as we were prepping the oxygen mix, if I believed we were the first to come here. I didn't answer, because deep down I know we're not. We never were. There are carvings on the underside of Persephone's hull. Small ones, thin grooves in the paint. We noticed them during maintenance. At first we thought it was pressure damage, but they're not random. They're letters, not ours. Mission Log 6, Dr. Heather Norman, aboard Persephone, descending into the Maw Trench. The walls are moving, not physically, not yet, but sonar shows depth readings that don't add up. We've been descending for 3 hours, but the trench still goes. And worse, it shifts. Rafi recalibrated the altimeter twice. The numbers flicker when we hit 44,000 feet. Sometimes it says we're deeper. Sometimes it says we're ascending. We're not. There's a pressure in my ears that says otherwise. Monroe is calm, too calm. He stares out the porthole like he recognizes this place, like it's home. The lights on the sub's exterior flicker in intervals now, casting brief flares into the ink beyond. Nothing solid. No fish, no silt. Just that black, heavy stillness pressing in from every direction. Then, just past 47,000 feet, Samira screamed. Not from pain, from recognition, because there was something just outside the port window. A shipwreck. An intact hull. Wooden. Its ribs broken open like a whale carcass. We slowed the sub, circled it. Monroe gave us a name before anyone else could speak. La Sirena. Portuguese. Sank in 1678, off the coast of Brazil. I asked how he knew that. He didn't answer. We kept moving. Slower now. The trench opened up around us, wider than it should be. Sonar stopped responding at 48,000 feet. Our signal bounced back in loops, repeating our last ping over and over again like an echo that got stuck. Then we found more wreckage. A rusted metal pod. Cold War era. Russian markings, faded and flaking. The numbers were wrong. When I ran them through our database, it returned no matches. Beneath it, buried in the silt, a modern black box from a commercial airline. Flight number burned out, but the timestamp said 2039. That's 14 years from now. Haruto refused to look at it. He just whispered, "It's pulling them in. Everything, from everywhere." I looked at Monroe again. He was still smiling. He said, "We're inside its memory." Something touched the hull. Not a collision, no damage. But a sound, a slow dragging of something textured along the outer shell. Like a tentacle, or the ridged belly of something massive gliding past. The external camera went white with static the moment we turned toward it. Rafi wanted to surface. Monroe refused. He pointed to the coordinates locked on the nav console. "We're being guided," he said, "pulled somewhere deeper." "There's a center," he said. "The Maw remembers. But it also forgets. That's what it's made of, what's left after forgetting." His voice didn't sound like his anymore. Haruto threw up. Samira cried. I looked out the viewport again. And I saw a building. Stone. Pillared. Buried partially in the ocean floor. Ancient Greek architecture. A temple. The columns were cracked and bowed, but intact. Barnacle-encrusted statues flanked the entry, worn faceless by time. Something glowed within, pale blue and pulsing like a heartbeat. I don't think it was ever meant to be underwater. Or maybe it always was. We hovered there in silence. Even Monroe seemed unnerved now. The trench pulsed again, like breathing. Rafi said at first, "We're not in the ocean anymore." The lights are dimming again. The console clocks now just show. No numbers. No dates. Only the pressure remains. We're going deeper. Mission Log 7, Dr. Heather Norman. Location, unknown, depth unknown aboard Persephone. We're still descending. The instruments are dead now. All of them. Not just off, blank. The lights are dimming in slow intervals like we're falling past layers of something thicker than water. Monroe says it's density fluctuation. Samira says it's a pressure anomaly. Haruto just keeps whispering, there's no bottom. There never was. An hour ago, maybe more, we saw something on the sonar. A structure. A large one. We approached slowly, cautiously, all of us half sure it would disappear once we got close. But it didn't, it only got clearer. And when the outer floodlights touched it, we all fell silent. Because it was Ithaca. Our station. Or rather, a station. Just like ours. Same hull design, same modular layout. The docking ring even bore the same serial code etched in the steel. ITH-09. That's impossible. We're ITH-09. The structure is decayed, weathered by time, covered in layers of algae and corrosion so thick it looks fossilized. Haruto said it looked like it had been there for centuries. We docked. Against all better judgment, we docked. Samira protested. Rafi refused to leave the sub. But Monroe insisted. I went in with him. The airlock hissed open like it was expecting us. Inside, the station was hollow, cold, dead. Dust floated in the still water like ash suspended in air. The walls were covered in scrawlings, long, curling symbols etched in the steel. Not carved, grown, like barnacles but with meaning. The halls were an exact match. Muscle memory took over. Turn left at Lab B, up the stairs past hydroponics through the decon corridor. Except every door was open, and behind every one, nothing. Not empty rooms. Blackness. Not just the absence of light. A void. Cold and aware. We found the common room, or the ruin of it. The furniture was rusted, bolted down by sediment. The glass panel that should have shown the sea beyond was cracked from the outside. And on the wall, drawn in blood or algae or something older, 7 crude figures. Human outlines, one taller than the rest. 6 had X's scratched into the heads. The 7th didn't. That's when I saw it. On the floor, beneath the collapsed comms desk. My own handwriting. A page torn from my notebook. Folded twice, half sunken in muck. It read, "Do not trust Monroe. You've already come this way. Leave before it remembers you again." I dropped the page. Monroe stared at me, calm as ever. But his smile was gone. He asked if I was all right. I told him I needed to leave. He said, "You always say that, and you never do." I didn't ask what he meant, because deep down, I already knew. We're back in the sub now. Rafi's still staring at the viewport. He hasn't blinked in minutes. Haruto won't stop drawing. He's not using his hands anymore. He's using his teeth. Samira won't speak, but she watches Monroe like he's something else now. Like she sees something I can't. I've locked myself in the forward cabin to write this. The lights keep flickering. And from the aft corridor, I swear I hear footsteps. But no one's walking. We're diving again. Or maybe we never stopped. I looked at the coordinates before I shut the door. They're not numbers anymore. Just a phrase. Welcome home. Mission log 8. Dr. Heather Norman. Depth unknown. Time. Location. Beneath the Maw Trench. We tried to surface. God help us, we tried. Rafi rerouted all power to the propulsion array. Haruto rebooted guidance. Samira sobbed as she pinged the sonar over and over, but all we got was static. The way we came, the trench opening, it's gone. Not collapsed, not blocked, gone. Like the ocean closed a door behind us. The water feels heavier here. It resists us, like flesh resisting a needle. The Persephone is trembling. Monroe says it's just pressure stress. But I saw his hands shaking, and for the first time he looks afraid. There are sounds now, from outside. Not the creaks and groans of the hull. Something else. A clicking, sharp, rhythmic, like enormous mandibles tapping against the pressure shell. Sometimes it's accompanied by bioluminescence, flashes of dull amber light far off in the distance. Not fish, not squid. Too big, too slow, and too organized. We found ruins, not wreckage, structures. Carved stone partially buried under layers of continental silt, glyphs etched into monoliths, arches, obelisks that look grown instead of built. We sent out the external drones. They circled the nearest spire, relaying visuals before the signal dropped. I studied the footage frame by frame. One of the symbols matches a fragment from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Another is identical to carvings found in the Göbekli Tepe ruins in Turkey, dating back over 11,000 years. But these lie 50,000 feet beneath the ocean. Impossible. Unless they were here first. Haruto said something that chilled me. It's not just old, it's before. I asked him what he meant. He said before time, before thought, before us. He's barely slept, his eyes look sunken, pupils wide even in full light. He started to hum something, a slow, repetitive drone under his breath. Samira joined in without realizing. Then she stopped, cried, asked us why she knew the tune. None of us answered. The Persephone passed over a field of skeletons, not human, wider, fused, six-limbed, spiraled in ways vertebrae shouldn't spiral. Each skull bore a hole in the center, like something drilled into them, or out of them. And yet, we found one still moving, not alive, but not dead, like it was twitching in a loop, repeating its last breath. We didn't speak, we just watched. Then Monroe whispered, "The maw remembers everything it consumes, even them." I asked him what them meant. He smiled again. "The first dreamers. The temperature has risen. We're deep enough now that the water should be near freezing, but the hull sensors read 31 degrees Celsius. It feels like we're entering a body, something with heat, with memory, with intention." We tried sending another log to Surface Command. Error, no signal. We are too deep, or we've left something behind. I don't know what's waiting for us at the bottom, but I know it's not empty. Emission Log 9, Dr. Heather Norman. Location, Heart of the Maw. Depth, unknown. Time, meaningless. We've crossed a threshold. There's no better way to describe it. No sudden drop or structural change. Just one moment we were descending through murky black, pressure groaning around us, and the next, silence, stillness, and a sense that we were inside something. Not inside water, inside will. The maw no longer presses against us, it invites. The chamber is vast, cathedral-like. The lights of the Persephone only reach so far before bending around the curvature of impossible walls. They move when you're not looking. We saw structures, not made of stone or steel, flesh and memory. Pillars that pulse with a slow, ambient heartbeat. Walls that breathe. Veins that twitch just under the surface of translucent membranes and patterns. Glyphs again, but this time moving, rearranging themselves as if trying to speak. One of them burned itself into the viewport. I see it even when I close my eyes, a spiral of spirals, ever inward, a symbol for forever returning. Monroe stood at the front console and didn't say a word for a long time, just stared. Then he laughed, low and quiet. It didn't sound like him. It echoed strangely like the chamber was mimicking it a split second after. Then he whispered, "It knows us. And then, it remembers me." He turned to us, and I swear his eyes weren't the same. They were wider, deeper. I saw the same spiral reflected in them. Haruto collapsed an hour ago. No wounds, no signs of trauma, just fell. Samira checked for vitals. Normal, but shallow. He's breathing, but his mouth keeps moving like he's speaking underwater. Rafi recorded it. We ran it through the spectrometer. It matched a waveform sent in the Voyager Golden Record. The one we launched into deep space in 1977. Only this version was older, corrupted, reversed, like the message had been here long before we ever thought to send it. The Persephone is different. Panels are warm to the touch. The steel feels soft, like skin. Samira tried opening a maintenance bay. The door blinked. Not a light. The door itself. It blinked. She screamed, wouldn't stop. Rafi gave her a sedative. He won't stop muttering to himself now. I think the glyphs are starting to form words he understands. Or maybe they're not forming at all. Maybe they were always there. Monroe doesn't sleep, doesn't eat. He stands in the center of the vessel with his arms slightly raised. Sometimes I see his veins pulse in rhythm with the maw. He whispers in a voice I don't recognize. And it's not English anymore, not even a language, just intention. The walls of the chamber are opening, not physically, conceptually. We see through them now. Beyond the chamber lies a city, endless, built from geometry that hurts to look at, angles that twist inward and bloom like flowers made of time, and things move within it, slowly, with purpose, not creatures, not ghosts, ideas given mass. I'm scared to look too long. I think one of them looked back. I tried to send one last log topside, I don't know why. Maybe reflex, maybe hope. The transmission was denied. The interface simply said, "You are no longer on that frequency." And in the reflection of the console, Monroe was standing behind me, only, not Monroe. His skin is peeling in thin layers, not blood beneath, just light. Blue and cold, like the light that comes from the maw itself. He whispered, "Heather, it's not death waiting at the bottom, it's remembering." And then he touched my shoulder. And for a moment, just a moment, I saw everything, all at once. A spiral collapsing inward. Time folding like wet cloth. My own face carved into the wall of a place I'd never been. I'm scared. But more than that, I think I'm starting to understand. And I no longer believe we came here by accident. Mission Log 10. Dr. Heather Norman. Location? Time? I woke up in the engineering wing. I don't remember going to sleep. I don't even remember coming here. The lights are different, warmer, like candlelight, though we have no incandescents on board. There's moss growing on the floor. I can smell it. Earthy. Damp. We're 40,000 feet beneath the surface. There shouldn't be moss. The door to the central corridor was gone this morning. Not closed, not damaged, just not there. In its place was a sloping hallway made of a dark, porous material, something like obsidian, but it breathed slightly as I approached. I didn't go through it, not yet, but I heard someone down it. They were humming that same low, droning tune Haruto used to hum before he went under. Only now it's layered. There's more than one voice. I found a journal in my bunk, bound in leather, stained with salt. It's mine. My name's written on the inside cover, but I've never seen it before. The entries describe the same expedition, our dive into the maw, but they're weeks ahead of where we are now. And in one of them I read, "Do not trust Haruto, he's already part of it." In another, "There is no surface, there never was." And then this line written over and over again for 3 pages. "I was born here. I was born here. I was born here." Rafi is missing. We thought he was in the comms room, but when we opened the door it led into the old mess hall from Station Ithaca. The one before renovation. It had 1950s insignia on the wall, and all the chairs were facing the same direction. Toward a figure at the far end of the room, not Rafi. It was a woman in a ranger uniform, decades out of date. Her face was turned away. She was whispering. We came down to look. That was the mistake. "You don't look at God's lungs. Then the lights flickered, and she was gone. So was the door we came through. We had to crawl through a crack in the wall just to return to the bridge. Monroe is still changing. His skin is dry now, cracking like old clay. He hasn't spoken in hours, but he smiles constantly. It's not a warm smile, it's knowing. Like he's watching us scramble while he waits for the sea to remember us. I swear we passed the same wreck 3 times today. It's an old Soviet submersible, the K-129, lost in 1968. Each time, it looked newer. The final pass, the hull wasn't rusted at all. Its lights were on. We saw shapes moving inside. Raffi, before he disappeared, swore he saw one of the crew members wave at him. Said it looked like his father. I dreamed of the surface last night. But it wasn't the ocean surface. It was a sky of black water and a sun like a pupil. And the earth I walked on pulsed with a heartbeat. I think it was the maw dreaming me. And now I'm not sure if I've woken up. I'm writing this in the engineering bay, I think. But I found another version of this same log just now. It was already written, sitting on the console where I write my entries. Same words, word for word. Even this sentence, even this one. I'm afraid to sleep, not because of what's out there, but because I might wake up somewhere deeper, somewhere I can't come back from. And worse, somewhere I already am. Mission Log 12. Dr. Heather Norman. Location abyss, time, no longer measurable. We've stopped moving, not by choice. The Persephone simply halted. No jolt, no impact, just stillness. There's no readout on the nav console. The depth sensors return no data. The lights don't even flicker anymore. Outside the viewport, there is only darkness, but not the kind that feels empty. This dark is watching. Raffi is back. He appeared this morning, naked, floating gently in the airlock. His skin is covered in a thin layer of pale, translucent tissue. It glows faintly. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. I heard him in my head. Just one sentence. It's awake now. Then he curled into a fetal position and drifted into the observation dome. He hasn't moved since. We left the Persephone hours ago. Maybe longer. There's no up or down here. No reference. Just us floating in silence in full submersion suits, surrounded by black. But something changed, something opened. We didn't descend any farther, at least not by propulsion. We were drawn. At first I thought it was a shape, maybe a landmass or trench wall in the distance. But it shifted when I looked directly at it. Not moving, pupils constricting. Then it blinked. The darkness wasn't empty, we were inside it. A vast, living chamber, not carved, not constructed, born. And the eye, it wasn't reflective, it was absorbing light, thousands of meters across, unfathomable. It was watching us, not with curiosity, not even malice, with recognition. We heard it in our heads, each of us at once, not words, memories. It spoke in feelings, in moments. The sound of my mother's voice calling me for dinner. The sting of failure in my doctoral defense. The touch of someone I loved, now long dead. It knew everything. And with it came something else. A sensation that this was not the first time I had floated in this dark. That I had stood before this eye, lifetimes ago. That this was a return. Monroe began weeping. Not out of fear, out of reverence. He whispered, "It remembered me." Then he opened his suit's visor. No pressure breach, no flood of water, just silence. He floated there, eyes closed, smiling as his body slowly unraveled, not decayed, unraveled, into strands of light, gently pulled toward the eye, like silk on a current. Haruto reached for me. His hand shook. He whispered, "Heather, it knows your name." And then, the eye moved, it turned.